Ciao everyone and welcome back to another episode of Learn Italian with Songs. Today we keep going with the album Natura Morta by Folkstone. We are so close to finishing it because we are going to talk about the 13th out of 16 track, which is Persia. And guess what? In English is Persia. Yup. Anyway, so what is Persia, though, like land-wise, geographically wise? Well, Persia used to be an ancient region, and nowadays, pretty much it's the same portion of land that belongs to the country of Iran. Keep it in mind because it is going to be very important for the interpretation. Now, at first glance, at least for me, wasn't that easy to understand right away what this song was about. I don't want to influence you because, as usual, the songs by Folkstone are not cryptic, but they can open to several interpretations. So at the end of the video, as usual, I am going to give you my point of view and my interpretation, but I don't want to influence you right away. So for now, I'm just going to show you the lyrics, okay? Give you the translation, and then at the end, we can talk about the meaning of the song. So we can start as usual with the lyrics, and we start with the first verse. Arsa è la terra. Parched is the earth. Because, as we said several times in Italian, mainly when we are closer to poetical language, we can invert the order of the elements composing the phrase. In this case, la terra è arsa, la terra subject is verb arsa, adjective, and here it is, we find an inversion, which is very common in poetry. Ma una rosa tardiva, but a late rose, si ergeva sicura, standed confident. Ergersi is quite of a specific verb, as in it's not belonging to low levels of language knowledge. Again, is more poetic, so we are in C1, C2 level. Nel meriggio vermiglio, in the crimson noon, where meriggio is the more elevated form of pomeriggio, afternoon, and vermiglio is a nuance of red, crimson. Partita da sola, departed alone, sulla soglia in rovina, on the ruin threshold. Lasciava favole incerte, she was leaving uncertain tales, di paesi sconosciuti, of unknown lands. I forgot an S here. Okay, lands. Now, we have the story of a late rose. In fact, I am going to decline the whole song in feminine because la rosa, the rose, in Italian is feminine. Keep this in mind because it's no coincidence, okay? So, we have our rose who is inhabiting a parched earth, so a land hard to inhabit, standing confidently. Of course, the crimson noon is very poetic imagery. departed alone, so she's alone. She is from a ruined threshold. She was living uncertain tales. She was living uncertain tales of unknown lands. What are these uncertain tales and these unknown lands? For now, I'm going to let you think about it. I'm going to tell you later what is according to me, in my opinion. Then we have the bridge. E cammina controcorrente. Controcorrente is a whole word. I am splitting it because it is a composed word, which literally means against current. And she walks against the current. Nel grembo dell'ignoto, in the womb of the unknown, l'indifferenza non muore mai. Indifference never dies. Then we have the chorus. E ricordati di me, and remember me, che ti cerco da lontano, seeking you from afar. A mani nude nel mondo, with my bare hands in the world, ti troverò, I will find you, ti ritroverò, I will find you again. E ora, scrivo ora il tuo nome, and I write now your name, su ghiaccio, pietra e nel vento, on ice, stone and in the wind, al ritmo del mio respiro, to the rhythm of my breathing. Dove arriverò? How far will I go? Literally is where will I arrive? But the meaning is how far will I go? Where will I reach? And then we have the second verse. Cocci di speranza, shards of hope, where cocci is a very specific word in Italian because it's not just a shard, but it implies a fragment or scrap of terracotta objects, so generally something made of terracotta or similar materials. Plasmano resilienza, shape, resilience. So, cocci di speranza plasmano resilienza, shards of hope, shape resilience. All'ombra di una prigione, in the shadow of a prison, incalza la resistenza. Resistance presses on, where we have an inversion because we have incalza la resistenza, presses on the resistance, literally speaking. Capelli nero corvino, raven black hair, sventolando nelle strade, flying in the streets, volteggiano nell'aria, whip in the air, liberandoli da quel velo, freeing them from that veil. Very important, this part. This is where I was like, oh, neuron activation. Then we have another brief bridge. La sua voce echeggia, her voice echoes, nel vuoto della città, in the emptiness of the city. And this bridge is going to connect our second verse to the chorus, which is again as before, e ricordati di me che ti cerco da lontano, and remember me seeking you from afar. A mani nude nel mondo ti ritroverò. With my bare hands in the world, I will find you again. E ora scrivo il tuo nome, sorry, like, because for me it's more natural e ora scrivo. It's e scrivo ora il tuo nome su ghiaccio, pietra e nel vento. And now I write your name on ice, stone and in the wind. Al ritmo del mio respiro, dove arriverò? To the rhythm of my breathing, how far will I go? And then we have quite of an emblematic ending because because we have the outro, quella rosa tardiva, that late rose mentioned at the beginning, ora è libera, now is free, tu sei libera, you are free. Now, back to the explanation. So, as I promised, I gave you the translation and meaning, like literal meaning, okay, to avoid influencing you. I'll be honest. At first glance, I thought, well, here we are talking about a character who is traveling, who's journeying, who's making a journey. Probably it's about immigration, like migration, generally speaking. Why? Because wouldn't be the first time. We had another song, Mediterraneo, which already talked about migrations. Of course, migrations are a big matter, big issue nowadays. So I said, maybe, why not presenting the problem, like this whole issue of how poorly migrations are managed from another point of view? Because what many singers do is to tell stories. So you can tell the story from different point of views according to the people you want to listen to, right? So I said, maybe they are offering the perspective of another story, of another protagonist to give another point of view concerning migrations phenomenon. However, because at the beginning, the song is talking about leaving, departing from a ruined threshold. In other songs, we also talked about war and how war destroys houses. So maybe I said, okay, you have the migrations as a consequence of war. Would make sense, right? Mainly because in the first verse, she was leaving the rose, uncertain tales of unknown lands. So a little bit the idea of that shock that hits many migrants, thinking, because of course they are promised lands where there are job opportunities, where they can move, give more possibilities to their children and whatnot, and then when they really arrive in the country, they face a very harsh reality, which is that country is shit as well. Very common. One of the reasons why many migrants don't stay in Italy, for example. And I kept going, and where it was saying she walks against the current in the womb of the unknown, indifference never dies. Why? Because immigration is sadly something that is not properly dealt with. So what happens is that people are just indifferent to this problem often, or they are just using it as a scapegoat for their problems. And then also the idea of walking against the current, or towards the unknown, it fit in my mind. And it fit also in the chorus where it says, remember me, seeking you from afar, made sense. With my bare hands in the world, I will find you again. Okay, could be a reference to migrants losing their families and then finding each other again, mainly when it concerns like significant others, children, and whatnot. And I was even more convinced with the second part of the chorus, and now I write your name on ice, stone, and in the wind, to the rhythm of my breathing, how far will I go? Because the travel, right, the journey. However, but I had still the question in my mind, why Persia? Because I was like, this is a very specific title to use. And I was like, what is Persia? As I said at the beginning, is more or less the same piece of land that nowadays became Iran. And I said, but it's okay, Iran has its issues, but it's not that famous concerning migrations, right? There are other countries more famous for like impacting migratory phenomena. And then, like, the neurons activated when I listened to the second verse, because in the second verse there is quite of a enlightening hint, if you will, which is shards of hope shape resilience. In the shadow of a prison, resistance presses on. So, a prison mentioned, so someone being imprisoned. And so far I was like, okay, maybe still a reference to migrants being imprisoned. But then it clicked in the second part of the second verse when it says, raven black hair flying in the streets, whip in the air, freeing them from that veil. And then for me it clicked because and it clicked also with the outro when it says that late rose now is free, you are free, which quite controversial statement, but I think it's made on purpose, because then it clicked why Persia, why Iran, because it is a reference to the oppression of women that is happening in Iran. And more specifically, probably it's a reference to a specific event, which is the death of Mahsa Amini. So, on the 16th September of 2022, a 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian woman called Mahsa Amini died in a hospital in Tehran, Iran, under suspicious circumstances. Why? Because the Guidance Patrol, the religious morality police of Iran's government, had arrested Amini for allegedly not wearing the hijab, so a very specific type of Muslim veil, in accordance with government standards. The Law Enforcement Command of the Islamic Republic of Iran stated that she had a heart attack at a police station, collapsed, and fell into a coma before being transferred to a hospital. The truth, most likely she was beaten to death. Just like many other women who started to protest after her death, and many other women we don't know about, because of course the event of the death of Mahsa Amini ended up basically on all newspaper all over the world. People journalistic agencies were talking about it, but there are, of course, many women we don't know of. She became pretty much the symbol of the oppression women are going through in Iran right now. And in that case, like after reading and listening those lines, it clicked for me because I thought about the hair coming out of the veil, which is the excuse with which the how is called, the guidance patrol are like take into custody, put it like that, to be light. Women, of course, it is just an excuse to oppress and abuse them, but the excuse usually is because the veil is not worn properly and you can see the hair coming out of the veil. And that was, for example, the case of Masamini. But until I reached verse 2, I was clueless. Given the second portion of the verse 2, I am quite sure that this is the point. Also because we had several topics. Folkstone focused on during the album. So basically, each song, each track of the album gives a perspective on a different problem. And even at the end, in this case, of course, it is the oppression of women in Iran, which, fun fact, at certain point when the case came out, everyone was talking about it. Now it's not trendy anymore, so people don't talk about it anymore, apparently. Internet. And at the end they say in the outro, ora è libera, quella rosa tardiva ora è libera, tu sei libera. That late rose now is free, you are free. Which is, of course, not to be intended literally, in my opinion, but with with a bit of irony, with a bittersweet aftertaste, because of course, if to be free you have to die, it's kind of a problem, one might say. It's kind of your human rights are not being respected sort of situation. So yeah, I'm like, it makes sense, this reading, this interpretation, but probably I missed something. Surely it can be interpreted in other ways. As I said, often the songs by Folkstone are made on purpose to provide different interpretations according to the point of view of the listener, and this is one of their strengths, if you will. But now let me know in the comments what you think, how you would interpret Persia, or better, Persia, the 13th track of Natura Morta by Folkstone. Next time we are going to talk about the 14th track of Natura Morta by Folkstone, Sulla Riva. That said, I hope you enjoyed. Grazie everyone for watching and arrivederci.